Hello and welcome to the Book Show on Diversity TV. I'm Ava Colopy, a writer of fiction, nonfiction, and poetry. My Facebook and website are Ava Colopy Books. Today we're here in rural Arkansas in the United States in a pleasant farmhouse. And I'm going to talk about a very appropriate book for good books and for Arkansas. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou herself came from the South. I first read this book when I was 15, and I eventually read all of her autobiographies and her poetry. Why was because I was actually a big fan of Fiona Apple at the time, and Fiona Apple had said she'd gotten a lot of her inspiration from Maya Angelou. And I wanted to know why, and that was the start of doing what I eventually called following the artistic bloodline, and seeing where my artists had gotten their inspiration from. So as for Maya Angelou, I would describe her as an excellent storyteller. She really gives you the experience of being in a place where she's been. She starts in this book by describing her childhood, and in a way where when you read through the scenes, you feel almost like you've been there, or like you were with a friend of yours from school who described her day to you. Even if it is a place you've never been to before, because at the time I was 15, I was from the Pacific Northwest. I'd never been to the South, and when she describes Arkansas, you get that sense of having been there. She's that good of a storyteller. And she does it with an economy of words. And my country, much like some other countries that have been through civil wars, such as Brazil or Ireland, we have a divide between North and South that is on historic lines. So to be reading about a place that is geographically different, but is also very culturally different, was quite an experience for me. And in the Pacific Northwest, there at the time was very little ethnic diversity. So I was getting this experience of something that an African American had been through, and what their perspective and experience of growing up in this country was like. And I found that very illuminating. But again, she does it with an economy of words. It really is like that old saying, to be a good writer, you must be a great editor. There's no time when it seems to be rambling on, which I don't care for in work anyway. She gets to the point, but not too much to the point. Rather than describing it, which I cannot even do justice to with such a great writer, I am just going to get into the book and read an excerpt from it to demonstrate it to you. What sets one southern town apart from another, or from a northern town or hamlet or city high-rise? The answer must be the experience shared between the unknowing majority, it, and the knowing minority, you. All of childhood's unanswered questions must finally be passed back to the town and answered there. Heroes and boogeymen, values and dislikes are first encountered and labeled in that early environment. Mr. McElroy, who lived in the big rambling house next to the store, was very tall and broad, and although the years had eaten away the flesh from his shoulders, they had not, at the time of my knowing him, gotten to the high stomach, his hands or feet. He was the only Negro I knew, except for the school principal and the visiting teachers who wore matching pants and jackets. When I learned that men's clothes were sold like that and called suits, I remember thinking that someone had been very bright, for it made men look less manly, less threatening, and a little more like women. Mr. McElroy never laughed and seldom smiled, and to his credit was the fact he liked to talk to Uncle Willie. He never went to church, which Bailey, her brother, and I also thought proved he was a very courageous person. How great it would be to grow up like that, to be able to stare religion down, especially living next door to a woman like Mama. I watched him with the excitement of expecting him to do anything at any time. I never tired of this or became disappointed or disenchanted. Although from the perch of age I seem now as a very simple and uninteresting man who sold patent medicine and tonics to the less sophisticated people in towns and villages surrounding the metropolis that was Stamps, Arkansas. There seemed to be an understanding between Mr. McElroy and grandmother. This was obvious to us because he never chased us off his land. In summer's late sunshine, I often sat under the chinaberry tree in his yard, surrounded by the bitter aroma of its fruit and lulled by the drone of flies that fed on the berries. He sat in a sodded swing on his porch, rocking in his brown three-piece, his broad Panama nodding in time with the whir of insects. One greeting a day was all that could be expected from Mr. McElroy. After his "Good morning, child," or "Good afternoon, child," he never said a word, even if I met him again on the road in front of the house or down by the well, or ran into him behind the house, escaping in a game of hide-and-seek. He remained a mystery in my childhood, a man who owned his land and the big many-windowed house with a porch that clung to its sides all around the house. An independent black man, a near anachronism in Stamps. She goes on to tell you the whole story of her life through her young childhood and into her young adulthood. And through her other autobiographies, she continues this very good storytelling, all of which I've read and all of which I would recommend, as well as her poetry. So this is a great book to start getting into her work with. Thank you for watching the book show on Diversity TV. We enjoy having you. Leave us any comments or any kind of interaction that you can think of. We are always happy to hear from our viewers. Thank you very much and have a good day.